One summer day in 2007, my mom and I were sitting on my front porch waiting for my dad to get home from work. The shade from the big oak tree protected us from the strong sun rays. My kitten Tom sat down beside us and laid down on the cool cement. The middle of our conversation was cut off by a big thump from in front of us. My mom and I both stood up and ran to where the sound came from before Tom could take off with whatever it was. My mom scooped up the lump in her hands and revealed that it was a little baby robin that fell from the tree. His eyes were shut and he looked like he was in pain. "Wow, how did he survive? That was at least a 7-foot drop," she said, pointing at the small bird's chest rising up and down. We cleaned up the robin and saw that he hurt his wing pretty bad. My mom said he was probably trying to fly for the first time like his parents, but he fell instead. We set him up in a little box in our garage and he finally snapped out of his daze. Chirps echoed throughout the room. He was probably wondering where he was and where his nest went. That night, my parents decided that we should keep the robin and nurse him back to health. I was hoping we could keep him forever, but whenever I asked if he could be our new pet, my parents never answered. So we put a blanket in the box with him and locked him up in our sunroom for the night. I hoped he would be okay in the morning and went to bed myself. I checked on the baby robin in the morning before I went to school. He was still breathing and in a deep sleep. My mom opened up the door behind me and warned me that it was almost time to leave for school. I lifted my backpack onto my shoulders and headed out to the car with her. "Mom," I asked, "can we name the robin something?" I was tired of calling him the baby robin that fell out of the tree. She nodded her head. "Yeah, what do you want to call him?" "Lucky, because he's lucky he survived that fall." Later on that day, I got home from school and ran out into the sunroom first thing to see Lucky. He was awake and sitting with his mouth wide open. "What do you want?" I asked him and giggled at his wide open beak. He just chirped and chirped and chirped, keeping his little beak open. Confused, I headed inside and asked my mom what was up with Lucky. She told me he was probably hungry, but she didn't know what to feed him. We didn't have a computer to look it up, so she called my grandma, who could easily find the answer for us. Wet dog food was the solution. I grabbed a handful of hard pellets and dropped them into a bowl of water so they could soften for Lucky. Good thing we had a dog. My mom and I went back into the sunroom and held the goopy dog food in our hands for Lucky to eat. He loved it, and I loved feeding it to him because he ate it out of my hand. We kept Lucky with us for 2 weeks until his wing was better and he was completely healthy again. Every day I woke up, checked on him before school, and fed him twice. It was fun to take care of a baby robin, even though it was hard to get the smell of wet dog food off my hands. One day, when Lucky was bouncing all over the sunroom, my mom decided to let him outside to fly for the first time. She opened up the sliding glass door and Lucky hopped right out like a bunny and took flight for the first time. He was chirping in delight as he soared from tree limb to limb. I was so proud of him. All of a sudden, 2 more robins appeared and chirped frantically at Lucky. "It's his parents!" my mom exclaimed. They swooped down to where Lucky was and I started to cry. I knew they were going to take him back. My mom saw the tears on my face and hugged me. "It's okay, honey. They'll take care of him too." We both watched as the 3 robins flew away into the sunset together. That was the last time I saw Lucky, but ever since that day, every time I see a robin I think, maybe that's Lucky or one of his kids. I'm glad I gave Lucky a second chance.